So good to see everybody. Like Pastor Jake said, so good to see everybody. I want to share a little story. Last week we were talking about seeds. Today we're going to be talking about harvest. And when I was 20 years old, I became the youth pastor at our church back in Dayton, Ohio, and just this family that's here with me today, the Wilson family, they are my family. They are more than just people who went to church with us. They are family to us. And for those of you who know, Jacob and I, it took us 12 years before we were blessed with our bouncing baby girl. And so we were so fortunate that we had parents in our church who let us love their children like they were our own. And Sarah and Josh, you are our kids. And Josh, to this day, Jacob asked me in the car the other day before I was getting ready to see him, he goes, because Josh has always called me mommy. He sees me and he goes, "Hi, mommy." And so it gets me choked up, buddy. It gets me choked up to this day. And so Jacob goes, "I wonder if he's going to call you. He's going to call you mommy." He did. Came right up to me at that wedding and put his arm around, "Hi, mommy." And I want to share that those are the seeds that make a difference. That you don't know what people are going through in life. And as for someone, for every single month for 12 years, we try to conceive in the heartbreak and the hurt that we experienced. And then for someone to share their children with us, to let us just love on their children and help them. And Josh right now he is up in Wilmington, North Carolina, and he helps there at the church there. He left Ohio and he went out. So they kind of planted him as a seed in North Carolina. And buddy, I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. And Tracy was one of Ellie's little preschool, little teachers in children's church. And so the seeds that she planted in my daughter's life, the things that you're seeing, see Ellie is now, she helps in the children's church. And it's like, we're harvesting those seeds that you planted. And guys, it's that simple. It is just that simple that when we plant seeds, we don't realize, Mike and Tracy didn't realize all those years ago, just by letting us just love a hurting, girl in her 20s, just love on her children, what it did to my heart. And it's the seeds that we plant to those around us. We don't know what people are going through, but there's a harvest. There comes a time for a harvest. And we're going to talk about that today. One announcement before you leave, I have Jim and Diane are going to be in the back today. We have our Advent series coming up, as Pastor Jake said. In 2 weeks, Pastor Derek and Angie will be back, and we want to take, so we have some of those packets left over. They're like little, it's got Hershey Kisses in it. It has little cards. It's got an Advent card in there about our Advent series, but also has our Christmas Eve service information on there, and just our church information on there. So if everyone, just be thinking today during service and be thinking afterwards, just encourage everyone to take 2 and think about who is a friend that you can invite to church, who is a friend that you can invite to the Advent series. And how many of you know sometimes people won't darken the doors, except for time of Christmas and Easter kind of seem like less easier time to come for some people. You know what? That's okay. We'd love to see them. So if everyone will take 2 and just pray about it. Lord, who can I share this with? And you know what? Maybe it's someone at the grocery. I know Jen is like master ninja evangelist. She is. I went out with her and I was like, dang, girl, like you are good. Like she's popping in stores, hanging papers and talking to people and inviting people. I mean, we've had so many guests come because of things like that. For Jennifer, just for people that she's invited, they're like, well, we're, a distance away, but we're only going to be here for a couple months, but Jennifer invited us to church. And I'm like, girl. So that's what we encourage you guys to do. Take 2 little packets, pray about who you can invite, and invite them to come sit with you. Have them come be with us. Because we've got a great Christmas season, holiday season coming up here that we just want we want to meet people. We want you all and the people, your friends, we want to meet your people. So after church, Jim and Diane will be back there. And if you will, just go ahead and grab two as you're leaving, and they'll pass those out to you, and then go ahead and go. One more thing I want to say about seeds before we get into the message is that I was thinking about, and I just was thinking about this during worship, but a shout out, let's give a shout out to Colorado, because how many of you know they have planted some serious seeds in our church. Pastor Derek and Angie and the vision that they've had, and Colorado has, because they love our pastor, they have stepped right behind them, and they have blessed us. They have poured into our projects. They help us without even realizing all the things that we do with like the Harvest Fest and the Easter and the outreaches and just all the stuff that we do. Colorado helps us. So we just thank you. Colorado, the people in Colorado, our family there. Yes, we thank you guys. We appreciate you. I know we're church family, but we love you guys, and we just really appreciate. We love our sister church in Colorado Springs. We're thankful for that, and I just want to pray right now in Jesus' name, God, that the harvest will come abundantly rolling in for those who have planted seeds in down here in Largo, in the church. Our church in Colorado, just pray that God, that it'll be just there will be a flood that will flood this because of the seeds that they've planted in our church and in our lives down here. We just thank you so much for them. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so last week we talked about seeds. We talked about, the point number one was we must know our past. It's where our seeds were planted, okay? Number two, what seeds are we planting today that we will see a harvest? And number three, what seeds are we planting today that the future generations are going to harvest? 2 weeks in a row, 2 weeks ago, the pastor who had this building built, his daughter was here, and I shared last week about, how the contractor, when he had a dream, he dreamed at night one time, that the arches, that if you take out the walls, the way that the church was built, that if you take out the walls of the church, we could fit about 800 people in here, but if we take out the arches and expand out, we can actually fit 1,600 people in our sanctuary. So at one time, that was their vision, is to pack. And if they needed the space, they would do that. Also, we talked about how the prayers of the people who planted the seeds to build our building are in the walls, that they wrote in the walls, that if we took down these walls, we would see the original prayers of the people who had this building built. That is incredible to me, that we are literally surrounded by prayers of the people who cast seeds and who planted seeds for us, future generations, to harvest. So what are we doing now that my grandchildren someday, that my great-grandchildren who will be here in Largo and Florida, that your great-grandchildren, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, your neighbor's grandchildren will be able to experience the harvest of what we're planting today, and so much bigger than ourselves. We talked about seeds, and again, this week we're going to talk about the harvest. We talked about Ruth last week, and how Ruth's father-in-law, Naomi, and her husband, they had left Bethlehem, and they had went to Moab. There was a famine in the land, and which means, according to Scripture, that if God was going to provide all their needs, if they followed him, if they did what they were supposed to, then God was going to provide all their needs. There was not going to be a famine. There was not going to be any need for anything. He would provide their needs. Seeing that there was a famine in the land meant that they were not living how they were supposed to. Okay? So Naomi and her husband, that he packed up their family, and Naomi and their two sons, and they went to Moab. Now, Moab back then was came from the incestuous relationship. That tribe came from an incestuous relationship between Lot, the nephew of Abraham and the survivor of the fiery destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and his oldest daughter. Okay? So Moab came from not a great place. All right? So it must have been bad famine-wise if he's taking Elimelech and Naomi, they took their family from Bethlehem to Moab because they were warned, don't go there, because they were serving other gods. It was not a healthy place to go. But you know what? They were desperate. They were at a place of desperation, so they left. Their 2 sons married 2 women, Orpah and Ruth. Father dies, the 2 sons die. Naomi's like, I'm going back. I'm going home. I'm going back to Bethlehem. I'm going back to the Israelites, to where the children of Israel. I'm going back to my home, my family, to worship my God, to worship where I'm supposed to be. And she encourages the daughter-in-laws, go back to your families. You have a better chance. Just go back to your families. I don't know what's going to happen, because they were Moabites. They were known as, to come from Moab, according to Psalm 60, verse 8, was to come from the Lord's wash basin. That's literally what the Moabites were known as, was they came from a wash basin, a place where he would use to wash the dust from his feet. And so she said, I'm going back, and I'm going by myself. Girls, you go back. And Ruth said, I'm going where you go. We said, where you go, I'm going. Your God is my God. I'm going to be with you. And so her and Ruth, they go. This was known as something so big. I'm going to stop right here, because this was so big because Ruth had no idea what she was walking into. She was going into a foreign land where her past, the seeds of her generations before her, were known as the wash basin. I mean, it's like you're not even just going into a new land, hey, we're going to a new place and hopefully get received. It's like I'm going in, known as Ruth the Moabite. That's who they keep talking about in the Bible. They don't just say she's Ruth. It's Ruth the Moabite. Don't forget who she came from. Don't forget where she's from. She's from the dirty in life. And how many of us have ever experienced that? Where it's like the seeds of our past is how we're defined today. We're labeled today from the seeds of our past. And I want to encourage you today that there is a harvesting going on in all of our lives, that God's less concerned about the seeds of where you've come from to where you're going. And where you have been, there is forgiveness. There is forgiveness in my life for things in my life. I remember growing up as a teenager, and I remember not understanding that God could possibly use me. I know I've shared this before, but that God could not possibly use me because my mom and dad were never married. My dad was married multiple times. My mom, has married to my stepdad, and then they got divorced, and she remarried. And the decisions that I made I dealt with anger so bad, and my reactions to things were so based out of anger and out of control that I was literally like the wild horse that God's like, oh, I'm going to break her. And she needs to be broken. But there's something beautiful when a broken horse learns to move how it's supposed to. And I remember when God really, it's a painful process, but seeing how God utilized those things that I was so strong-willed about in order to bring me to the place where it's like, I don't care about my past anymore. I felt like I had something to prove. I felt like I had something. I'm going to show them. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it my way, and it's going to be strong. And to, God, I just want more of you. Just use me. I don't care. I really don't care. I really just want to be used. But I don't know how he could use me. I just remember saying that all the time, like, God, I don't know how you're going to be able to use me. Because have you seen my past? Have you seen my family? There's a lot of dysfunction here in my family. And I come from that. That's the wash basin. That is, I'm coming from the dirty water right here. But I mean, no, Jesus went to that cross to purify that dirty water. He's not interested in your dirty water. He wants to know where he's going to take you. And the people that you're going to take these packets to this week, there's going to be people who are going to say, I don't think I can go because you don't know where I come from. I'm not concerned. There's going to be people in here, there's people that I know that, church, we should be filled with the broken. We should be looking forward to not just the ones who talk the right way, who know how to talk in church. But I guarantee when they go out and on Mondays they're at work and they're a whole different person. I don't care. I just want lives for Jesus. I just want the world to experience Jesus. I want to see the harvest. I want to see revival for Jesus, not for our church, but for Jesus, for the kingdom, because those are lives that need to experience Jesus and go to heaven, because this world is not filling up our hearts. The world is not giving us the peace that Jesus going to the cross can give us. That's what I want. Our harvest is going like this. And those around us in our circle, that whether we're afraid or, I hear people say a lot, I was talking to somebody today and they said, well, they used to come to this church and then something happened to them and they're just mad at God right now. You know what? That's not on me. That's on him. And guess what? He'll take care of it. Because the same God that loved me and pulled me out of my anger issues is the same God that's going to restore that heart and draw that person close to him. Because honestly, that's what they want. They want someone to touch the deepest part of them that we can't even understand, to the deepest hurting part of them. And we can't do that. That comes from the Holy Spirit. We have no control of that. So if we are in the mode of harvest, if we are our seeds that we're planting, forget about your past. As of right now, you have permission to right now, let's leave the seeds of yesterday, the things that have held on to your life saying you're not good enough, you're not worthy, no one's going to listen to you. Guess what? God will give them ears to hear you. Today is your first day. Today is a fresh start for everybody in here. I don't care if you've gone through divorce. I don't care if you don't have a relationship right now with your children. I don't care if you've had an abortion. I don't care if you've made decisions that can alter your life because you were on drugs for so long that it has actually affected your body. I don't care. We are farmers. We are farmers. Dun, 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 dun. We are harvesters. We're going out to the harvest. Because it's not about me. Listen, I'd like it to be about me. I do like things about me. But this is not about me. This is about him. This is about the reaching up, reaching in, reaching out. Guess what? We're reaching in together. We're reaching out. Okay? And it doesn't mean that we have to have a big festival or something like that to do it. It means that if all of us made connections with people and brought them, it's not just bringing them to church, it's introducing them to Jesus. It's introducing them to Jesus. When we lived in Ohio, our great friends, who really became some of our best friends, lived a couple doors down from us, and they were farmers. And our backyard was, probably 100 acres of cornfields and then soybeans. Cornfields, like 1 year was soybeans, 1 year was cornfields. And we always liked it when the soybeans, because it didn't grow so high and we could actually see the sunset, like the sun would set behind the fields. And my friend, he had this big combine and I remember every year I'd be like, Blake, can we go first? Like, can you harvest our field first? And because I want that field down. I want you to gather the harvest so that we can see the sunset. And I remember being so excited. I would talk to his wife, Ashley. And I remember I would always say, how y'all doing in harvest? How's everything going? Did you come ahead? Because according to what she told me was, you don't really know. You plant in the spring, and then you wait and you wait and you wait, and you hope that the weather and everything is, going to be good to you, and that the harvest is going to be good. And then you take down the harvest, and then you kind of, depending on how they're buying at that time, the people who are buying your harvest, then depending on how much you get paid, you find kind of out like, then this is how much we made. This is, we made or we lost. And I just always was so excited, like, oh, I hope you get a big payday. Like, get down that harvest, hope you get paid big for it. We want you to have a big harvest. And we had another friend who had planted, the wife told me, had $50,000 worth of seed that was planted in their acreage that they were planting corn that year. And she told me, she said, my husband hit a depression. He hit a depression and was physically sick, and he let his harvest go. He never harvested what he would have gained. He let it go. He was mentally not there. And listen, some of y'all, it might be hard for you to have that mindset of harvest, but we're in this together. We're not going to let your harvest go bad. We're not going to let your harvest go to waste. We're in this together, okay? So if you see someone that needs a little help with their harvest, come alongside of them. Hey, I'll help you. I'll help you with your harvest too, okay? I'll help you plant the seeds so that when it comes time, we get to experience the harvest together. Okay, so number one, the seeds of Ruth's character and willingness to work harvested a covering of abundance and a path of blessing. Okay, let me say that again. The seeds of Ruth's character and willingness to work harvested a covering of abundance and a path of blessing. In Ruth 2:11 through 12, back then, Ruth and Naomi had come back to Bethlehem, and back then, they didn't have men to work for them. Basically, if you didn't go out and work, you didn't eat. There was opportunities for you to go out and work, but you had to go work for it. You actually had to go harvest what was there. And what would happen is these farmers, so Boaz was a family member of, what was called the kinsman redeemer, that would be the second to next in line that would help take care of the women and could basically cover them and could end up marry Ruth. And so his field, she happened to stumble. I love how she happened to just stumble upon his field. Sometimes God doesn't just let us stumble upon things. Sometimes God leads us places, and he finds out who this is. And his response to her in Ruth 2:11 through 12 says, "But Boaz answered her, 'All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge.'" So he's calling her out on this, and he says, I know what you've done. The seeds that you planted, you left your family behind. The seeds that you've planted for your mother-in-law, you left everything familiar to you. And because of your goodness to your mother-in-law, God, the God of Israel, is going to protect you. Because of your seeds, because of your character, because you just did the right thing, God, the God of Israel, is going to protect you, because she doesn't know the God of Israel, because she followed the God that the Moabites followed. But because of saying goodbye to the things that she knew, saying, I'm going to plant seeds without even realizing it, the goodness in her, planting those seeds to her mother-in-law, that I'm going to take care of my mother-in-law so nothing happens to her. And we're going to be linked up. And doing that, Boaz recognized that and said, I'm going to allow you. said, I'm going to allow you to work in my field. And he told his workers, protect her. Do not let anything happen. There's a protection when we plant the seeds, when we do the right thing, when we do with our character comes shining through, and we do the right thing that God's called us to do, God protects that. And he gives us areas that are able, we may have to work for it, but he blesses us. So she would go into the field. Gleaning back then, I don't know if you know what gleaning is. Gleaning is when you, I put this on, so it's not charity. It's not like the homeless asking for money. It was the landowners would have a field of wheat. And then what they would do is, so they have a whole, let's say like a square of a field. And then, but it's not just the goodness of their heart. It was actually the law that you did not, the outskirts of the crop, you didn't touch. You left that for the poor, the widows. You left that for them so that they could come work. They weren't given freebies. It was actually the law that then they could go work and they could gain wheat and for their family. Through gleaning, the poor earned their living the same way as the landowners did by working the fields with their own laborers. It was simply a command that everyone had right to access the means of provision created by God. And isn't that beautiful? I just was so impressed by that it's like, Lord, you made it law for your people to take care of the other people. They didn't just give them a handout. I mean, no, I would love to be given handouts, okay? I would like that. I think we all would. But it does nothing for our character if we don't work for it. If I don't work for what I'm getting, it's like giving a kid candy. No. My daughter, she will say things and she'll say, Mama, can you buy me this? Or, listen, we went to Macy's. She had her own little stash of stuff. I'm like, girl, you ain't got no money. There's no money in your pocket. We ain't buy nothing till you work for something. And she's like, so immediately she's like, okay, how can I make some money? So there's like different things, like she's thinking, okay, well, maybe I can babysit. Maybe I can do this. We got a neighbor who moved out. She's going to clean her apartment for her. And I'm like, I'm not just giving you stuff. You may be an only child, but I'm not raising you as a spoiled only child. You're going to work because I had to work. And you're going to be thankful in the end that you didn't get handouts to you. You're going to work for it. And that was the mentality that God had for the children of Israel. Was it is law that we're going to leave this for you so that people like Ruth could go work. So they wouldn't starve. They weren't just begging, or they weren't prostitutes. They didn't have to. They had a means that they were able to work. And because Boaz was the family, there was a protection over her. And he told his workers, do not let anybody take advantage of her. You cover her. This is where she's from. You cover her. And I think it would have been easy. And it says if she would have went to someone else's land, she could have been taken advantage of. Thank you, Lord, for sending people our way, that we didn't just stumble upon things, but you send people our way to cover us. Because of the seeds that we plant, our harvest, our character allows us to harvest the goodness, the same goodness that Boaz's family, Boaz's workers were harvesting. She was allowed to harvest that same goodness. Let's take a couple of scriptures. I want to look at gleaning, the whole process of gleaning. In Leviticus 23:22, it says, and when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap the field, your field right up to its edge, nor shall you gather the gleanings after your harvest. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am the Lord your God. Again, Leviticus 23:22. So we're going through scriptures, we're looking at scriptures that talks about the whole gleaning process, the law of this. So we know it's not just something that, she just happened to stumble upon a field. This was the law that was set up for them. In Leviticus 19:9-10, when you reap the harvest of your land, You shall not reap the field right up to its edge, neither shall you gather the gleanings after your harvest. Again, so now we're talking about this twice in Leviticus, so this must be important. And you shall not strip your own vineyards bare, neither shall you gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am the Lord your God. All right? Deuteronomy 24:19. When you reap your harvest in your field and forget a sheaf in the field, you shall not go back to it. It shall be left for the alien, the orphan, and the widow, just so the Lord your God may bless you in all your undertakings. And one more, Deuteronomy 24:21. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, do not glean what is left. It shall be the alien, the orphan, and the widow. Now, how many of y'all, when you go this week, I almost ran out of mayonnaise. And I know some people, there's like, oh, we're getting down to the bottom. We'll just throw this thing away, buy a new one. Nope. I worked at a restaurant, and the owner of the business, Donna, she told me that no, we're going to take that rubber spatula and we're going to scrape it out. We're not getting rid of anything. So I have in my mind, we don't waste. We do not waste. So this whole gleaning process is kind of hard for me because you drop the grape on the ground. Listen, 5-second roll, boom. I'll put it right in my mouth. I don't care. Pop it in, okay? They're like, let it be. Because guess what? Behind you are going to be people who need that grape. When you drop your wheat on the ground, leave it. Don't pick it up. Someone's coming behind you, and they're going to pick up the harvest. What you just harvested, even if it fell to the ground, they're going to pick it up. The harvest that we're doing, some of you all here left your hometowns and moved down here as snowbirds, and then maybe eventually it became permanent. And, and some of you, and you know what? Some of you have left harvest sitting on the ground. That was something I struggled with. I felt like I planted seeds for years and years and years and years in my little hometown in Brookville. And the Lord spoke to my heart so clear, because I struggled with this. I'm like, Lord, I planted so many seeds in these young kids' lives that went to school with my daughter and the people in the town, and working with the police chief and the fire chief, and I was on the Chamber of Commerce and working with the mayor in town. It was like I was planting. I just knew that God, those seeds were being planted, and I was starting to harvest things. And he said, you can stay and harvest, or you can go and harvest. But if I go, it doesn't mean that those go to waste. It means that he's going to bring up someone behind me, and they're going to start harvesting. All those seeds are planted. So some of you that have planted seeds, whether it be here or maybe where you're from, God's not going to, those seeds are not just going to be wasted. Because wherever those seeds were or are, God's going to send people to harvest those seeds. Those seeds into the life a drug addict that you knew or that you know that can't escape from drugs, that can't escape whatever it is, the addiction. God's like, it's not about me. It's not about, I'm just the worker. But he's got more workers coming up behind me. He's going to take care of the harvest. All right, let's keep going. All right, number 2, the seeds of respect for the Israelite law and custom, and for their family. See, the seeds of respect for the Israelite law, custom, and law for their family harvested a covering of safety for her present and her future. She didn't know, she was not from this land, but she came in, and with a heart of respect. She didn't come trying to trailblaze, this is what we did here, and this is what, she came in, and she went with the customs that were there. She respected the law. And in that, there was a covering in that. There are things that when we're harvesting, that God's called you to, that you respect the law. You respect the customs. My sister-in-law she is an amazing woman of God. And I remember years ago, probably maybe 10, 15 years ago or so, she had come to me and said, she is going through the season, and she told me, she said, I am supposed to go into the strip clubs. And I'm supposed to feed the dancers. And it was almost like this burning in her heart. And if you know my sister-in-law, this is not something where it was like, okay, I really don't want to do this, but this is what I feel like I'm supposed to do. And with that, she starts sharing her vision, and all of a sudden people are like, I agree with this. I want to do this too. Women, of course. It was a team of women. But they spiritually had to be prayed up. We prayed for them on Wednesday nights because we knew they were going into the dark places, spiritually dark places. And they came to where they got to know these dancers. They got to know, why are you doing this? They helped get some of them out. And it wasn't just a plan just to let them find Jesus and then they were done. It was, get you out, get your GED. You have children, let's get you set up. Let's get you set up in a home. There was a plan and action to bring these girls out of this lifestyle. It wasn't just, you need Jesus, and then that was it. It was, oh, you need Jesus. You know you need Jesus. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to help you, and we're going to help protect you. But they also knew too, the owners of the clubs in our town, in Dayton, there was probably maybe 7 or 8 strip clubs. Boom, 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 boom. It was called the Dixie Strip. Yeah, called the Dixie Strip. And it was raw. It was dark. And doing that, they started seeing results. They did this for years. And you know what? One by one, those strip clubs started closing down. Boom, boom. And it wasn't like scattering, we'll just send them to other ones. They were making a difference. Some of you will be called to the hard places, the dark places. But there were things in her life that she had been, that God had trained her up in ministries to be able to go there. I wasn't able to go there. I was asked to, and I said, I don't feel it. That's not me. But I will pray for you on Wednesday nights. I will intercede for you. I will pray covering. We will, I can help with food. But they would go in Wednesday nights. The owners of the places knew them. They welcomed them in because they were good to the girls. And then meanwhile, while they fed them dinner on Wednesday nights, they got to hear about Jesus. And they started plucking them out of the darkness. Whether your harvest, whether you go somewhere, if you go into the dark places, or it's your friends around you, God's prepared you right now, where you are, your background, the seeds planted in your life. He's prepared you right now for this moment. What has he planned for your life? Number 3, the seeds of submission harvested a fulfilling future full of life and restoration. The seeds of submission harvested a fulfilling future full of life and restoration. Now, if you know me, and you can ask my husband, we were married at 18 and 19, and I can't say that I walked right into marital bliss being submissive. Done told you I was a wild horse in I would say, I guess a better way is, I've been whipped into shape, Okay, the Lord loved me enough to whip me into shape. But going into being part of the Grimes family, that Grimes family didn't know what just hit them. They didn't know what tornado came right into their, blazing in their life. I struggled with submission because I was told, you be independent. You don't need anybody. I learned to just do it myself. I'm not submitting to you. Oh, girl, it's going to be a long road for you. It's going to be a hard one. Because there's something that's beautiful when you actually learn to submit. When you submit. In my home, I do submit to my husband because I trust him. Because there's a wonderful covering that my husband covers over me. I don't need to be a rock star, independent, fly off, do my own thing. There's a comfort and a covering that Jacob provides for me as his wife. There's a covering and something beautiful that happens when we submit ourselves to the Lord and know that his plan is better than our plan. God, it's not how my flesh would actually answer this, but my spirit's saying I probably should be submissive to you, or this is going to be a painful process. I don't need any more painful processes in my life. Done been through those. Just put the muzzle on my mouth and let me walk in submission. That's where I'm at. Boaz was her kinsman redeemer. She went to him when he laid at the threshing floor and pulled back the cover at his feet and to ask him to cover her. And what that meant was, it was not seductive. This was not a seductive act that she went and laid with him. No, it wasn't that. It was Israelite custom and law. She submitted to that law to go to him to do this, to peel back the blanket, and then the kinsman redeemer, he would protect her. She needed that protection because she lost her husband. She had no covering as a woman in that time. And he was so, her submission in the way that she was like, I just want to be, I want that covering. I just want to do what's right. He was amazed because he said, you could have gone to someone younger and you could have gone to someone more rich than me. I mean, all I gotta say is, if he's a sugar daddy, then, Ruth's like, I would be like, Ruth, is he sugar daddy? Like, no, that was not her heart. It was, he's family. He would be family. He would be the next in line to be able to take care of her. And that was beautiful because she could have just done her own thing. She could have went off and been a prostitute. She could have done what her own agenda. But she submitted to the law and the custom. And in that, she was able to harvest in even more than just the wheat. She was able to harvest in her future. We know the story with Ruth and Boaz. Boaz went out and talked to the next in line that would be able to be the kinsman redeemer. And he said, no, I can take the land, but I'm not interested in taking Ruth as my wife. And Boaz, that's exactly what he wanted to hear. He's like, I'll take the land, but I'm taking Ruth as my wife. And we talked last week about how, so then they have a son, Obed, who is the father of Jesse, who is the father of King David, who becomes King David. And because one girl left the seeds of her past and basically left it at, I'm not going to be defined by that. I'm not going to be known as the wash basin. I'm not going to be known as the place where people wash their feet. But God brought her in. She wasn't an outsider to God. He was less concerned about where she came from and saw her that was his daughter. And the best would be held out for her. One last thing, and then we're going to close. The harvest and threshing process in our life can be painful. So where Ruth found Boaz, he was on the threshing floor. The threshing floor was either, it was made out of like stone, or it was made out of like hard soil. And what would happen was they would take the wheat and they would like stomp on it, and they had to get that hard outer, where the wheat, like the chaff, and then to get the seed inside. That's what they wanted, was the grain inside. And then if you threw it up, the seed was heavy, but the chaff would blow away. And the seeds are in all of us. And some of you and the people that we know, you know what? I'm going to talk to us right here. Some of us have been through things in our life that were hard on the outside. It's created us a hard outer shell. It's created us to be angry and be triggered by certain things. Fighting for control of something because at some point in our life we lost control of something that was very important to us. But God wants to stomp. Some of you, it's going through the hard times and not understanding why you're going through that hard time. Link arms with us, with each other. You're not alone going through this, but allow God to take you through the threshing process, because what's inside of you is so valuable. It's not going to penetrate what's inside of you. He's got you protected. He's got you covered. But he's got to get that hard that's on the outside, and when he throws it up, it's going to blow away. You will not be defined by that. This is not how he's going to see it. He's going to thresh you. He's going to get that harder outer shell, let the rest of that blow away so he can get the tender that's inside of you. Because he's got a plan for each of us. And we can't go and be useful if we still have the pain in our past and the hard outer shell. We're not going to be as useful if we can't release that. We have to be able to release that so he can see the vulnerable inside of us. I want to pray, and I want to open up the altars today. I really felt like I wanted to open up the altars. You hear me say this a lot, but we're in this together. If you're hurting, I'm hurting. Pastor Jake's hurting with you. We want to be there for you. Pastor Derek and Angie, they hurt. When you're rejoicing, we're rejoicing with you. Because we're a family. That's what we do. And so I want to pray today. If there's something you want to pray about, I want you to come forward. And some of you have felt, I just felt the whole threshing floor. And some of you felt like I have been stomped on. I'm hurting. God's going to bring you through this. You are not going to be in this situation forever. You're not going to. God's going to bring you out of this. For those of you you're questioning your past, your decisions. I'm telling you right now, he's not gonna hold that over your head like a big old thing of mistletoe. He ain't gonna wait for you to screw up again. He's got a future for you. For your children and grandchildren that you just are questioning, God, where are they? For your family members, for parents, for siblings. Y'all listen, I'm with you. My heart is burdened for the lost. The lost that don't even know they're lost. So we're going to pray together today. You want prayer? We will pray with you up here.